back to Wilmington's Morning News. Of course, always talking about the local, statewide, and national issues. And when we get the opportunity to talk with the folks that make it happen at the national level, it's always a great opportunity. We'll continue that this morning as we welcome U.S. Senator Ted Budd back to our airwaves this morning. Senator Budd, appreciate your time as always. Some pretty disappointing inflation numbers coming out yesterday. I guess Bidenomics working exactly as the Democrats had intended.
Oh, hey, great to be with you, Nick. But yeah, really sad, disappointing news for the economy and especially for hardworking folks out there. We see rents up by 16%, energy prices since Biden came in office up 43%. Groceries are up by 20%. The list just keeps going on. And, he keeps bragging about Bidenomics. I don't know why he's doubling down on it, because we realize that only 30% of the folks out there, 30 to 36% of the folks out there actually approve of what he's doing. It's really a train wreck for hardworking Americans out there. And we know how to fix this. I mean, we know to stop overspending. We know to get on the road to the balanced budget. We know to start producing American energy again. We know and the list is very simple of what we need to do to fix this. But Biden's ideology and that of his administration doesn't allow him to fix it.
Well, I think folks find themselves ever more frustrated with the fact that we were promised about almost a calendar year ago today that we're going to have this thing called the Inflation Reduction Act that was going to solve all of these problems. Yet here we are a year later, and we're seeing some of the highest inflation numbers in all of 2023. I'm not the smartest person in the room, Senator Budd, but I assume if legislation that says it's passed to reduce inflation, it might have some impact. That doesn't appear to be the case in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of regrets on those who signed up for that. And you look at the infrastructure bill, and that about 11% of it actually had to do with real infrastructure. They really have a problem on the left with changing the meaning of words and then trying to sell it to the American people. But I think the folks are just fed up with it. They're ready for straight shooters just to do exactly what they said they're going to do, and stop spending. Do what our Constitution says we should do as a government. And, people just want to live their lives, and they want government out of the way. And everything Biden has done is get in people's way. And especially folks, if they're at the grocery store, they're paying for, what they did about a month or 3 weeks ago, back to school stuff for their kids. It's tough. It's tough on folks out there. And I lay this at Biden's feet, and we know how to fix it. We just need the right people in place to make the right policies that make it easier on the American people.
I think some of the most shocking numbers that I've seen specifically revolve around the price of food. Obviously, cars and all that stuff is important, but it's costing American families. It doesn't matter where you live, whether you're a Democrat or Republican and unaffiliated. It's costing families thousands of more dollars a year to just buy simple groceries and simple food at the store. That's really tough, Senator Budd.
Yeah, I mean, the average number for groceries is up 20%. Where do you take that from out of your budget? They feel, I think these folks that have been in Washington for 50 years, like Joe Biden, and have somehow figured out how to enrich themselves, don't worry about the American folks. But, regular people, how do you get 20% out of your budget? You just don't magically make it appear. You'll work longer if you have the opportunity for that. It's just hard. And we know how to fix this. You got too much money chasing too few goods, and inevitably that leads to inflation. That's exactly what we've got. They pump these trillions of dollars into the economy, but it's hurting the American people.
U.S. Senator Ted Budd joins us here on Wilmington's Morning News. You talk about folks going to Washington, D.C. and enriching themselves. That is a topic of conversation this morning out of the House side. Kevin McCarthy, Speaker McCarthy, announcing that he's opening an impeachment inquiry. That's the key word into Joe Biden. What are you learning about that? And give us your initial impressions and thoughts.
Well, my encouragement, of course, that's on the other end of the Capitol, but we've got some real challenges here. I think this is very concerning. You've got serious allegations of bribery, ethics violations, corruption. There's a lot of questions for the Biden administration to answer. So I really support all the efforts to get the answers. What we've seen is that Hunter had tremendous influence over his father's office during the Obama administration. Here's an example. So he had the ability, Hunter did, to direct correspondence, plan guest lists for state dinners. This is Hunter we're talking about here. And reception, he had, who's coming to the receptions, who's getting in the White House. These are real problems especially when Joe Biden said that he had nothing to do with his son's business. But we really realize there's over 1,000 emails that say otherwise to that.
Yeah, it's definitely concerning. And, when you look at any poll, I don't think it matters what poll it is or what survey it is. If folks are asked, do you trust the government or do you have faith in the government? Those numbers are always incredibly low. I guess, Senator, but it's, conversations like this and 12 or a dozen plus phone calls about the weather while Hunter was hanging out in Dubai with a bunch of business partners. That doesn't bolster any sort of faith in the American people that their government is looking out for them, does it?
Well, you think about what the left has done. Have they made our institutions better? Name an institution that's better because of what the Democrats have done. It's just a train wreck. Have they made education better? Have they made scouting better? Have they made medicine better? Nothing that I see them doing makes anything easier or better for the American people. And I think by our very nature, for the last 247 years, we've rightfully been skeptical of government as an American people. But we want it to be a healthy skepticism, not a cynical skepticism, which the left has driven us to with this socialist Marxist tendencies, which we've seen accelerate in the last several years. It's heartbreaking. But we need to stand up. We need to turn out. We need to vote. We need to send the right people to Washington, the right people to Raleigh. And I tell you what, even with all the challenges around, we've got some good people. So please don't be overly cynical. We've got some good people fighting the good fight right along with me. I'm grateful for them. We just need more. This is a numbers game, and we've got to have right people. And we don't get there unless your listeners, unless the great people in North Carolina or the other 49 states turn out to vote for good candidates.
Yeah, no question about it. Sitting on the sideline doesn't help anybody in any way, shape, or form. U.S. Senator Ted Budd joins us here this morning. Caught a press release from your newsroom office. I think we'll look back in 10 years, 20 years in the history books. It'll look pretty dark as to what we did in regards to our response to COVID-19. You've co-sponsored a recent bill to ban federal mask mandates. I can't even believe I'm asking you this, Senator, but it looks like that's coming back, at least in some way, shape, or form, at colleges and universities across the country. What's going on?
It's interesting. Like the first college to really start the mask mandate was in Fulton County, Georgia, of all places. It's about, less than 300 students there, but it's like they're floating these little trial balloons around to see how tolerant the American people will be for the mask mandates. And I don't think we're going to have anything to do with it. So J.D. Vance and I have worked together on this bill. This would prohibit any federal official, including the president, from issuing a mask mandate on, here's one, domestic air travel, public transit, and primary, secondary, and post-secondary schools. And it would prohibit air carriers and transit authorities and educational institutions from refusing service to individuals who choose not to wear a mask. So if you don't want to wear a mask, that's your choice. If somebody wants to wear a mask, I don't think we should poke fun at those people. We don't know their personal situation, their family situation. But look, you don't mandate things. You let people decide on their own. That's more American than mandating things like we've seen them do over the last several years.
Yeah, and I don't think many folks, at least listening this morning, will disagree with those statements. U.S. Senator Ted Budd is our guest. Hearing some rumblings out of Washington, D.C. about a potential government shutdown coming forward. What are you hearing about that? What's going on there?
Look, I don't think anybody is really actually for a shutdown. People want good government. They want things to stay open, but they're tired of overspending. They're tired of the border crisis. We've got real issues that we need to deal with. So I think it's the underlying issues that need to be dealt with. And not the shutdown. I'm encouraged that we're going to get to an issue. Whether October 1st will have us in the position of a shutdown or not, I don't know. I'm not a fan of continuing resolutions. I'm not a fan of these big omnibus spending bills. But we've got to address some big issues here on the House and the Senate side. That's border crisis, debt level, inflation, which is driven by overspending, more energy exploration to lower our fuel costs. And let's just remember that we don't have a taxing problem. We got a spending problem. And we also need to make sure that we don't politicize this thing, like throwing in disaster funding and disaster aid, which we need to deal with in places like Florida and those who've been hurt. And we also need to keep things like Ukraine funding, keep that separate. We'll deal with that separately, but let's deal with coming to a reasonable solution where we're not overspending and we're dealing with the crisis of the day, which mostly is a border issue, and the inflation challenges. If we deal with that, we can keep the government open, but it's going to be bumpy here for a little while.
We'll, of course, keep a close eye on that right here on Wilmington's Morning News. One of the big things that you do outside of all of your votes and the legislation and things that you bring forward is constituent services for citizens in North Carolina. Talk a little bit about that and how folks can get in touch with you in your office.
Absolutely, yeah. Hit us up at the website, bud.senate.gov. It's budd.senate.gov. And we'll love to get, if you've got a flag request for an organization or somebody we can honor, if you've got an issue as a veteran, if you're dealing with PACT Act issues or Campus Union Justice issues, then please reach out to us. Even folks, a lot of the summer travels, they're over now, but if you've got a passport issue, contact our office. We have one there in Wilmington. So let us know at bud.senate.gov. That's the best way to start, and we look forward to helping you however we can. Any interface with the federal government, we're there to be your advocate.
Senator Ted Budd joins us here this morning. Senator Budd, always appreciate your time. Thanks for the information. We'll catch up with you again next month.
Looking forward to it.